And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we've got some questions. We didn't get any in the Discord or in the chat, but we have a handful on Twitter. So we'll get to those now. At JBFaz1213 has a couple of questions. Says he's expecting Eric DeCosta, the GM for the Ravens, to trade down at least once, if not twice in the first round. Is he off base or is he on target for that?
I think the Ravens are a prime candidate to trade, whether it be down or up. I think they are a team that could move around a little bit. Ultimately, maybe they move up for Jackson Smith and Jigba. They even signing, Odell Beckham. I think they're going to look at receiver, but they're not a team that's afraid to move down too. So I don't think it's necessarily off base. But if there was a team in the 20s that I'd say, this is a team that's going to move, I think the Ravens are high on my list because I think they have a lot more holes than it seems. They could use a couple more picks, and DeCosta's a guy that does like to add those picks ultimately.
I've seen several mock drafts in the last week, like multiples, like 3 or 4, that had the Ravens trading all the way up from 22 to like 3 or 4 to draft one of the quarterbacks. That seems freaking wild to me.
I think they'd have to trade Lamar Jackson to do it, right? And then it's like, well, then is that team really moving down? It just doesn't make much sense to me that
right.
Happen.
I mean, I don't think we've seen a trade to come up that much since, was it Julio Jones? Where a team went up like 18 plus picks or something. I don't know. He also had another question regarding the Ravens, or a statement, I guess. He said his dream scenario is the Ravens getting either Joey Porter Jr. or Bijan Robinson at 22. Either take one of those two or trade back. Your thoughts on whether either one of those will be available at 22 if they stand pat?
I'd be surprised. Like, I don't think Porter – it would take the corners to fall, I think, for Porter to make it down there, right? Like, Devin Witherspoon falls to 16 or 17. I just don't know if Porter makes it there. Bijan, I guess, is possible. Like we talked about with Eric, we don't know. But and the Ravens, I think, could be a sneaky team to take him, but I'd be surprised. So he can hope for a trade down then.
There you go. At Flows 420 ask, best guess on which teams will be picking in the top 10 next year, those that will most likely be looking for a quarterback.
So it's kind of interesting because I started kind of just putting together the bones and going to do a 2024 mock after the draft. So I took the reverse Super Bowl odds for the order, and there's like a clear kind of divide. I feel like right now it's Arizona, Houston, Indianapolis, Tennessee, Tampa Bay. Like all those teams could either take a quarterback this year or need one next year. And then the Rams, Washington, Chicago, Atlanta, like feel like teams that are going to need a quarterback, maybe not Chicago, right? So, I think we could be looking at 9 teams taking a quarterback either last year or next year that end up needing one. I guess I would guess Tampa being that team, right? They're too far down in the first round, I think, to get a quarterback this year. And, man, their roster is pretty brutal right now. They're probably going to draft like a running back at some point day 2. So, I don't see it as a team that's going to compete. And I think they could be in that Caleb Williams sweepstakes.
Who are the teams that are projected to have multiple first-round picks next year? Houston is one.
Houston has Cleveland's, Chicago has Carolina's. That's it.
And I fully expect Arizona to have somebody's.
We'll see if they. It depends how high they go down too. If they like you said, if they bumped one pick to 4, then they're not getting a future first.
Maybe.
No, not for one pick.
Maybe if it's for Stroud or the quarterback. I don't know. I'm not ruling anything out. Last question from Twitter at Nate_Dirt19. Wants to know about a rumor that Trey Lance may be getting traded to Minnesota, and it as part of a trade would include Kirk Cousins. You buying any of that?
So Minnesota apparently has been one of the teams that's called the 49ers about Trey Lance. And you think maybe San Francisco, Brock Purdy's probably not going to be ready this season. They're really going to trot out Sam Darnold if they trade Trey Lance. I don't think Kirk Cousins would be included. I think it would be last year Kirk, get Lance healthy, ready, and send him out there. It doesn't make it too much sense to me, but it could happen. If Lance gets moved before during the draft, Minnesota's a possibility there. Give up their second round pick, and you don't have to draft, Hendon Hooker in the first. Essentially, you could take something else.
Sure. Well, we got a question in the chat, so we'll answer that one here. Wyatt Johnson asked, where do we see A.T. Perry going?
He's kind of a tough one because I think he's on the fringe of day 2. I would say day 3, like round 4 into round 5 is probably where I'll have him end up. But if he goes round 3, it wouldn't shock me. I won't be floored.
I've seen a hand in a lot of the simulators I've gone through. He has come off the board in the late 90s. Very very bottom of round 3. I think early part of day 3 is where early 4th round. I think was, I questioned his long speed, and he kind of answered that a little bit at the combine. So, we'll see. He tested well. He tested a lot better than I thought he would. So I think that gets him probably in that pick between 105 and 120 area seems fair for A.T. Perry.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
All right. So that's going to do it for our questions tonight, Shane.